Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 58, coming at you on this beautiful Tuesday evening in the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for the weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you get your podcasts or videos on YouTube. And it's still hot as ever in the Valley, trying to stay out of this oven. Been spending the weekends going to my girlfriend's family's cabin a couple hours north. It's like a 20 to 40 degree difference there, which is fantastic. You know, only a 2-hour drive, so can't complain about that. But excited this weekend for, I feel like, some much deserved UFC action. We had a week off, had some lower level fight night cards, back to pay-per-view in the UK. And, although the UFC Fight Night card wasn't stacked, I thought it delivered a lot more than the expectations. We have fights that have been announced. We have a little bit of news going around the world of mixed martial arts with the Jake Paul bout. And then we also have some rule changes to chat about before we break down UFC 304. So let's jump right in. Some fights that have been announced. We have Movsar Evloev taking on Aljamain Sterling at UFC 307, which is happening on October 5th. I thought Movsar would be able to get, in a title eliminator or title shot. This is a good bout, but it's just this poor guy is going to have to do Bilal Muhammad style to get to the title run, it seems like. We have Marina Rodriguez and Yasmin Lucindo also on UFC 307. That's a really good scrap in women's MMA. We have Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Arichi Long at UFC 306 at the Sphere, which sets us up for, I believe, 8 of the 10 announced UFC bouts at UFC 306, which is funny because that would set us up for the 2 main fights, which are the main events. We have Michelle Pereira and Anthony Hernandez as 1, Yasmin Yaragüe and Ketlin Souza is 2. Edgar Chairez, Kevin Borjas is 3. Irene Aldana, Norma Dumont is 4. Ronaldo Rodriguez, Odie Osborne 5. Ignacio Bahamondes, Manel Torres 6. The Raul Rosas Jr. Arichi Long fight 7. You would assume the headliner, 1 more. So there's 3 fights left. I've seen rumored that Brian Ortega is going to fight Charles Oliveira, so that would be 8. A lot of people saying Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili, and then I would assume someone for Diego Lopez. So the Sphere is almost booked. The reason I'm so tuned in is because if Sean O'Malley finally does get announced as a headliner, I'll be attending the one and only event at the Sphere. Anyways, we also have Shara Magomedov and Michael Oleksiuk on August 8th. And then a pretty stacked fight night card for October 12th. I think this is even happening in the Apex. We have Cody Garbrandt and Miles Johns, Nico Price and Themba Gorimbo, and Chidi Nkwani and Jared Gordon all on that October 12th fight night card. And then we have Morgan Scherer taking on AJ Cunningham on the September 28th bout. And then the first bout for UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi, October 26th, we have Renat Fakhretdinov and Nursultan Ruzaboev, which should be one hell of a scrap. And then for this weekend's bout, we have Jake Hadley stepping up in short notice to take on Colin Logran. We'll talk about that. Pretty solid bout for Colin, good test for him. And then we have Roman Kopylov out in his fight against Bruno Ferreira. Pretty bummed about that. And the camp is trying to get Abdul Razak Al Hassan in against Bruno Ferreira. That would still be a banger. I'm all down for that one. And then 2 weeks ago, we had the UFC Fight Night Denver. Gene Silva taking a fight in an upper weight class against Drew Dober on short notice, a week's notice. announced that he broke both of his hands in round one, smashing on Drew Dober. Shows you how tough Drew Dober's head is and how he could take a shot. And he was able to get the finish. That's probably why we saw the spinning elbow at the end of round one and at the end of round two, which saved him. And then we have an official rule change. The UFC, or Mixed Martial Arts Commissions, are no longer getting rid of the 12-6 elbows as an illegal strike. And then they are also changing the definition of a grounded opponent, which used to be hands and body parts. Now it has to be only I guess it can't be their hands. It has to be any other part other than their hands and feet. Has to be down for them to be defined as a grounded opponent. So there will be no more trickery with people putting their hands down so that the opponent can't knee them. I think these are win-win changes. I'm not too sure why they did the 12-6. You know, that is a pretty nasty strike, but hey, I'll take it. More carnage. And then we had the Jake Paul, Mike Perry boxing bout this weekend. I did not catch it. It seems like Jake Paul made slight work of Mike Perry's lack of defense and technical boxing. He got the knockout in round 6 and knocked him down 3 times, as he was the much bigger fighter in this bout. But a lot of people, including myself, thought Mike Perry would have a chance if he cleaned up his attack, prepared for the rounds. But it seems like he was gassed out towards the end of the fight, brought no defense. And, this isn't bare knuckle. You can't just go in there and go for it. And then if you're grappling fans, we obviously have the UFC Fight Pass. A lot of UFC and ex-UFC talent competing there. But Abu Dhabi's put on the ADXC events. This is ADXC 5. We have Uriah Faber making an appearance, taking on Bibiano Fernandez, who is a ONE alum. And then Chad Mendez and Kevin Lee. So that'll be coming up. Let's see when that is. August 2nd. So Friday, August 2nd. I'm going to put that in my calendar as well. ADXC 5 for those of you who like to see those grappling events. There is also PFL that day. And I will be in Boston for a bachelor party. I'm not recapping The Ultimate Fighter this week because it is not even airing for an hour and a half here. Wanted to get this in on Tuesday. Original scheduled programming. But let's talk about it, man. We had UFC Fight Night Vegas 94 this weekend. I went 7-4 in picks, which puts me on the overall record 356 wins, 178 losses, 7 no contests or draws. And on the year, I'm 163 wins, 92 losses with 4 no contests or draws. Recapping the card, the prelims were pretty much an absolute snooze fest with slow decisions, as I had expected. But in the prelim headliner, Cody Gibson did show out against Brian Kelleher. And the main card got turned all the way up, man. We had 5 finishes, all by round 2. Some amazing scraps, and there was some serious carnage. Overall, I give the fight night a 6 out of 10 on how it delivered. I think I previewed it at like a 2 or 3 out of 10. But the main card scraps were pretty fantastic. And I thought there would be some potential for that when breaking down the card last week. But the only prelim fight we broke down was Cody Gibson with a round 1 submission via arm triangle choke over Brian Kelleher. And really, this was just complete domination by Cody. A breath of fresh air for him, I'm sure. Being towards the edge of his prime, getting his first win in his second stint and return to the UFC since The Ultimate Fighter. And, Brian Kelleher was just kind of backpedaling as Cody was coming forward, keeping him at distance with the strikes, mixing in the grappling. He was on full defense the entire fight and really couldn't get anything going. Statistically, Cody landed 18 total strikes, 13 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns in 5 attempts, a submission attempt, and 2 minutes and 38 seconds of control time. I've been very high on Cody Gibson since The Ultimate Fighter. They told his story. He's been doing well outside the UFC and has fought some tough competition in the UFC. And Brian, a veteran who's been there, done that, he made slight work of him, which is very good props to Cody and his game plan. But Brian only landed 2 total and significant strikes. So Bryan extends his losing streak to 4. He hasn't won since January of 2022. And Cody ends his 2-fight losing streak. He does start a new winning streak. He's 2-3 since 2022 and 1-2 in his UFC return. So what's next for these guys? I think Cody Gibson and Garrett Armfield would be a blast. And if Bryan is still in the UFC, he could fight Dan Argueta for a UFC roster spot. Moving on to the main card. Golly, this turned up real quick. We had Hyder Emil with a round 1 TKO over Zhang Yang Lee. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Hyder Emil. And what a round and what a fight as long as it lasted. Both guys exchanging in the pocket after about a minute of kind of flowing in there, measuring each other up. And Hyder actually got rocked first by a right from Zhang. I think if Zhang Yang would have pounced on that, he may have had a chance, as like Hyder was clearly stunned. But Hyder kind of got woken up from that, came back in the pocket and just let it rip. Both guys letting it rip, and he hit a couple nice lefts. And somehow Lee was able to take about 15 shots up against the cage, not dropping, getting dropped or getting finished. But it was a chaotic scrap right out the gate. It was a standing TKO finish by Hyder Emil. What a firefight. Hyder landed 42 total strikes, 42 total and significant strikes, and Zhang Yang landed 4 total and significant strikes. So Hyder stays undefeated. He extends his winning streak to 10. He is now going 3-0 in the UFC. And Zhang Yang ends his 8-fight winning streak and starts a new losing streak. He is 2-1 in the UFC, including that rise to the UFC bout. And the stats say Zhang Yang only landed 4. He threw a lot more in the pocket. A lot of them were over the shoulders of Hyder that missed. And then out of the 4 that landed, they were very significant. So what's next for these featherweights? I would love to see Hyder take on Doo-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy, who we'll talk about in a second. And Zhang Yang could square up with Alexander Hernandez. I think that would be an awesome bout. And that sets us up for the Korean Superboy, Doo-Ho Choi, with a round 2 TKO over Bill Algeo. And round 1, Bill was bringing it. He brought the energy and gas right out the gates. You could tell he was wanting to get over that L and get another W on his record. He did brilliant mixing in the grappling and striking and really just overwhelmed the Korean Superboy in round 2. Doo-Ho's corner or himself must have really, got motivated and inspired from how Bill came out, because round 2, Choi matched his energy, brought the grappling to Bill, rocked him, pounced on him, and was able to get the finish with Bill. Another wild fight for as long as it lasted, but round 1 was pretty dominant by Bill. That's got to be a tough loss. Doo-Ho Choi finding the perfect shot to rock Bill and just pounced on the finish. Now, statistically, Doo-Ho landed 32 total strikes, 21 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns in 3 attempts, 3 submission attempts, and 1 minute and 33 seconds of control time. And Bill landed 38 total strikes, 17 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns in 3 attempts, a reversal, and 3 minutes and 9 seconds of control time. Now, Doo-Ho ends his 3-fight losing streak with the draw and starts a new winning streak, his first win since 2016. And Bill extends his losing streak to 2. He is 4-3 since 2022. So what's next? Again, I would love to see Doo-Ho and Hyder Emil. That's a banger. And for Bill, he could take on Charles Jourdain. I think that would be an awesome fight for fans. Both fighters, that's a win-win if you ask me. And then the flyweights went at it. We had Bruno Silva with a round 2 TKO over his teammate Cody Durden. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Bruno Silva. And this fight was an absolute classic as long as the fight went. Both fighters went for broke. And both of these guys are teammates. I guess they offered the fight to Cody. He said no, he doesn't want to fight a teammate. They offered it to Bruno. He accepted it. And I think that kind of lit some fire under Cody, as you could see the anger throughout the fight. And much like the Algeo fight, Cody had some clean strikes and really was taking control of this fight in the first round. But Bruno has such a great mix of power and speed, and Cody really didn't have much of a chance to grapple. I don't think he was really planning on doing that, as he was seeing red. Probably should have done that more. But again, Cody had control of round one, keeping him at distance, landing the cleaner shots. Bruno did throw some, powerful, quick shots, but was missing the mark. And then in round two, caught him with a nasty uppercut, put Cody on the ropes on the edge of the cage there, and Bruno went in for the finish. A little bit of a shocker. I'm sure that's a tough pill to swallow for Cody Durden. Statistically, Cody landed 31 total strikes, 28 of them significant with a takedown, 3 submission attempts, and 2 minutes and 35 seconds of control time. And Bruno landed 45 total strikes, 42 of them significant with a knockdown, while going 0 for 2 in takedown attempts. So Bruno extends his winning streak to 4. He enters the rankings at 14. And Cody extends his losing streak to 2. He is now 4-3 since 2022, and he exits the top 15. So what's next? Talked about these on Matchmaker Monday. If you haven't checked me out on social media, at Bows and TKO's Instagram, X, TikTok, you name it, Facebook, Bows and TKO's page. You can see it after my personal page, Shane Gillette. But Bruno Silva and Tim Elliott would be an awesome fight. He's in the top 15 now. He gets to fight in the top 15. And for Cody, he could match up with Joshua Van. I think that would be both fantastic flyweight scraps. And at a high level, when these guys fight, man, they are fun to watch. The mix of speed, the scrambles, just everything is just 0 to 100. Then we had another tough veteran, a non-winner, but winner in the UFC. We had Kurt Holobaugh with a unanimous decision over Kenan Khrushchevsky. And this was a little bit of a change of pace fight compared to the others that were all quick finishes. But it was a high-paced fight for 15 minutes. Although it was a decision, this was a solid fight for the main card. Kurt was relentless with his pressure for Kenan, mixed in grappling to keep Kenan guessing. I don't think he was really trying to do much with that. But rounds 1 and 2 pretty much went to Kurt's game plan, I'm sure of it, as he was able to do what he wanted. And Kenan had some success with some big shots and takedowns, especially in round 3. But by that time, it was too little too late. He needed a finish. But really, props to Kurt, a solid fighter, and Kenan with some power, controlling the pace, wearing on the younger fighter with his pressure, and in his later 30s, really doing a good job, and is going to be a problem for a lot of guys in the division. Statistically, Kurt landed 171 total strikes, 92 of them significant. He had 1 takedown in 4 attempts, a reversal, and 5 minutes and 21 seconds of control time. So he had over a round of control time, put on the pace, kept it going, steady. And Kenan couldn't keep up as he landed 115 strikes, 89 of them significant. He did have 3 takedowns, was 3 for 3, 2 submission attempts, and 2 minutes and 47 seconds of control time. So he was battling late in the second, early and through the third round. He was having his moments, but he was already down on the scorecards. So Kurt starts a new winning streak. He's 2-1 in his return to the UFC, and Kenan extends his losing streak to 2. He is 1-2 in the UFC. So I would love to see Kurt take on Chris Duncan. That seems like a good matchup. And for Kenan, if he is still in the UFC, how about Trevor Peek? You want to talk about violence? But good showing by Kurt Holobaugh. And what a performance by another featherweight showing off. Steve Garcia with a round 1 TKO over Sungwoo Choi. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Steve Garcia. And this is just another scrap where both men chose violence, especially Steve. They got in there, measured themselves for a second, kind of understand what's what, and they just let their hands fly. Both men were able to land some shots, but Steve's left just possesses a different kind of power, and that was on full display, his 4th finish in a row. And it only took Steve 18 total strikes, 15 of them significant. He was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts with the knockdown. And Sungwoo landed 9 total and significant strikes. So Sung starts a new losing streak. He is 3-4 since 2021. And Steve extends his winning streak to 4. He is 4-1 since 2022. So what's next? You want to get a banger? Give me Steve Garcia and Andre Feely. That would be bonkers. And for Choi, he could take on Gabriel Miranda. which set us up for the women's strawweight main event. And boy, did Virna Jandiroba put on a show with a round 2 submission via armbar over Amanda Lemos. Performance of the night, 50 G's to Virna. And Virna just showed up and showed out. Absolutely. You know, Amanda didn't have a chance to really do anything. Virna shot a blast double leg early, got in on the hips. I mean, Amanda could have tried to sprawl, push the head down, but she went immediately in for a guillotine. It's like something she probably practiced. And that really backfired because Virna wasn't close to being submitted. She gassed out her arm a little bit and then had to finish the entire round on her back. And Virna was just kind of wearing on her. Lots of shoulder and head pressure to control Amanda, but didn't do a lot with it. A little bit of ground and pound. And then round 2, Amanda battled back through the grappling. She had some great scrambles and reversals. But every time she had a great scramble, Virna is just so high level. She's always a chess piece move ahead. And she's, you know, finding ways to get her back. I can't remember the exact transition, how she got her back, but it was like a 50-50 scramble. Virna was in on a leg lock. Then Amanda was on top. And somehow she was able to, through a scramble, get Amanda's back, put her in a leg triangle, or body triangle, excuse me, was going for rear nakeds. Amanda was so, you know, in the zone defending the rear naked that she was like pulling on Amanda's arm because Amanda's holding Virna's arm to avoid, you know, the choke. She's pulling. And as she did that, Virna grabbed it and just like pulled her to the side straight into a side mount armbar. I replayed that thing like 4 or 5 times. Like, man, I want to practice that transition on the mats. You know, a big guy like me, it's never going to be that nice. But golly, was that nice. Was able to get the armbar quick finish. It was in deep, and Amanda had no choice unless she wanted to give some damage to her arm. And this just shows you, I mean, we knew Virna had a grappling advantage over Amanda, but the level that she's at is just, it's so much fun to watch and is going to be a problem for all the straw weights. And that's why she's on the impressive winning streak that she is. And she's just looking thick, man. I mean, I don't know what her weight cutting numbers are, but for the women in straw weight, she's pretty thick compared to the other competition. And statistically, you know, again, Amanda defending the grappling majority of the fight, only landed 5 total strikes, 2 of them significant. She did have a submission attempt in a reversal, and Virna landed 20 total strikes, only 2 of them significant. She had the 1 takedown on 5 attempts, 4 submission attempts, a reversal, and 6 minutes and 27 seconds of control time. Really controlled majority of that first round. Now, Virna extends her winning streak to 4. She moves up 2 spots in the rankings to number 3. And Amanda starts another losing streak. She is 3-3 since 2022. She moves down 2 spots in the rankings to number 5. So what's next? Well, I think especially with Tatiana Suarez being hurt, Virna should be the next fighter earning a title shot against Zhang Weilei. And for Amanda, she's really fought like the entire top 15 of the division. So how about Amanda Ribas? I think that would be a fun one either way. But again, that main card was absolutely bonkers. Cody Gibson putting on a show in the prelim headliner. Hyder Emil, the Korean Superboy, Bruno Silva, Steve Garcia, and Virna Jandiroba with brilliant displays of violence and grappling. And then Kurt Holobo, 15 minutes of executing his game plan. You know, nobody's going to want to look over the experienced veteran there. But that sets us up. Prime time UK fighting. I'm sorry for the UK fans. This is going way late in the morning, which I'm interested. You go to the event in Manchester. When do they stop serving alcohol? The main card doesn't even start till like 2 a.m. How's that going to work? Do they not care over there? They keep it going. I'm not sure, but that's got to be a really interesting event to see in person. I couldn't imagine going to a thing that starts at like 10 p.m., gets over at 4 a.m. in the morning. Regardless, UFC 304, early prelims at 3:15 Pacific and prelims at 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Prelims on ESPN Plus or UFC Fight Pass, and then the prelims on Primetime TV. If I'm previewing the card, I would say this is an absolutely stacked main card. Some decent prelims and early prelims, but the main card really is the highlight, a lot like the Fight Night card that we previewed this past weekend. And then there is two much anticipated rematches between two fights that really didn't get a chance to happen. Excited to see them transpire. I'm giving this for a pay-per-view a 7 out of 10 in my preview. And some good fights that we will not break down. We have Contender Series alum Oban Elliott taking on Preston Parsons. And then we have Molly McCann taking on Bruna Brazil. And I think I missed one because we were just talking about it. I did. We also have, let me pull it up real quick, the fight that just got short notice by Jake Hadley. We also have Jake Hadley taking on, let's see, Jake Hadley taking on Colin Logran in the prelims. And then I'm not going to change it, but there has been a change to the bouts. Probably deservingly so, but I think it should be betterly adjusted. We have the banger between Christian Leroy Duncan and Gregory Rodriguez up in the main card after the Arnold Allen head opener. And then we have the Manel Kopp Muhammad Makayev fight going down in the early prelims. I think that should definitely be in the prelims, but it is what it is. So we're going to kick this thing off in the early prelims. We have Modestas the Baltic Gladiator Bukauskas, 30 years old with a 15-6 record, taking on Marcin Prokhnio, 36 years old with a 17-7 record. Now, originally when I typed the script out of like who's fighting, their age and record, I usually have an immediate heart reaction to who I think is going to win. And I thought originally I was going to take Modestas, but after breaking the fight down and watching a little bit of film and recapping some of the previous fights, I had changed my mind. Sorry, your boy's thirsty. It's hot as a mother out here. But this fight's intriguing. We have both men who have shown their potential in the UFC. They have struggled to keep the momentum and the good times going. And they're really wanting to hit their stride and you know, have their hard work pay off. Modestas is just now hitting his prime at 30 years old. And Marcin is at the edge of his prime at 36. So for Prokhnio, he really can't afford losses at this point in his career. Especially in this deep division. The wins are so important. Breaking it down, Modestas is a Cage Warriors alum and former champion. He had 2 successful title defenses. He's had 2 stints with the UFC. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, and he is 4-1 since 2022. 9 of his 15 wins are via knockout, and 4 of his 6 losses are via submission. Now, Marcin has a Kyokushin karate style. He has a blue belt in BJJ and a black belt in Kyokushinkai karate. He's a 1 alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is 2-2 since 2022. 11 of his 17 wins are via knockout. 4 of his 7 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, this should be a back and forth striking affair, which will make the fans happy, including myself. But Marcin has really done well and has taken strides in his game of late. He has a win over William Knight and Devin Clark by a landslide, where he was out striking, and he even beat a really good Vitor Petrino throughout most of the fight until the 3rd round, where he got taken down and lost via submission loss. Now, Modestas is more of a boxing heavy striker, but I wonder if any grappling is going to be added in this fight for advantages. I just think Marcin is more technical and more experienced. For that reason, I'm taking the underdog. I'm taking Marcin Prokhnio, and I am putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Little nice underdog money for y'all right there. I was more confident looking at him like, yeah, dude, you know, he outstruck Devin Clark. He's looked good. Went over William Knight, Vitor Petrino. He was doing the work there. I just don't see how Modestas is going to find a way unless he grapples. And he's not a grappling guy. And then this got moved to the main card. But we got Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez, 32 years old with a 15-5 record, taking on Christian CLD Leroy Duncan, 28 years old with a 10-1 record. Now you want to talk about a banger. That's exactly what we're getting here. And although this is a short notice replacement fight for RoboCop, I believe this is better than his original opponent, Robert Brzezinski. And RoboCop has absolutely been starching his opponents. And all of CLD's wins in the UFC have been by TKO finish. So this is going to be one hell of a fight. Now, Gregory trains out of Killcliff FC. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's a Jungle Fight LFA alum and Dana White Contender Series alum. He is a former LFA champion. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He is 4-2 since 2022. 10 of his 15 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 5 losses are also via knockout. So for RoboCop, it's to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Christian is a Cage Warriors alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He's 3-1 in the UFC. 8 of his 10 wins are via knockout, and he has a 4-inch reach advantage. Now, CLD has a wide stance. He likes to kind of bounce in and out of range with his strikes. And for Gregory to land his power strikes, he's going to have to eat some strikes, and he's going to have to get some kicks away from range to close distance and get in the pocket. But I believe RoboCop will do that. Will do just that, and I think he's going to be cutting off the octagon and may even look to grab CLD, grab a hold of him against the cage, maybe even clinch with him, look to do some dirty boxing, whatever he could do to close distance and put some damage on CLD. But if CLD's pouncing out of range, almost like MVP style, RoboCop's going to be taking a lot of damage coming his way. But I am taking Gregory Rodriguez. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. I love me some RoboCop ever since he's been in the UFC. Had that big cut in his head. This guy is an absolute terror. And I believe he's a favorite. I'll double check here. But this might be another dog. Let's see. Let's see, they still have him in the prelims on this. Yeah, Gregory Rodriguez plus 110. So another dog. The dogs are coming to eat. Moving on into the prelims, we got Mick Parkin, 28 years old with an undefeated 9-0 record, taking on Lucas Bresky, 32 years old with a 9-4-1 record. Now here we get to see Tom Aspinall's training partner, see how he's growing and flourishing in the UFC, and he has taken on a man who has struggled so far in the UFC. Breaking it down, Mick is a Contender Series alum. 5 of his 9 wins are via knockout. He's undefeated with that 9-fight winning streak, 4-0 in the UFC. And Lucas is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak. He's 1-3 in the UFC. 5 of his 9 wins are via knockout, and 2 of his 4 losses are also via knockout. So much like the others, to knock out or be knocked out. I do think Mick is going to be too technical. He has a great jab for a heavyweight, a great IQ, trains with a great team, and he is definitely improving from fight to fight. He's only 28. And Lucas is coming off a win, so that's going to build some confidence. But he definitely is going to have a sense of urgency for his UFC career at 32 years old. So I expect him to take some chances, bring the fight to Mick. Mick's going to have to perform well, but I think he stays undefeated. I'm taking Mick Parkin. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Nathaniel the Prospect Wood, 30 years old with a 20-6 record, taking on Daniel the Pit Pineda, 38 years old with a 28-15 record. Now this is one hell of a fight here in the prelims. Nathaniel is just now hitting his prime and already has some very quality wins in the UFC. And Daniel's looking for some consistency as he's getting later in his career, as he's only had 1 win since 2020. Breaking this one down, Nathaniel trains out a Great Britain top team. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's a Cage Warriors alum. and former champ with 2 successful title defenses. He's also a Bellator alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 3-1 since 2022. 8 of his 19 wins are via knockout, 5 via submission, so 13 of his 19 wins are via finish. And Daniel, he's an orthodox fighter. He has a black belt in BJJ. 3 of his 5 fights have been fight of the night or performance of the night. He is an Elite XC, Legacy FC, former champion with 2 successful title defenses. And he's also a Bellator, LFA, and PFL alum. Daniel's on a 1-fight losing streak. He is only 2-1 since 2020. 19 of his 28 wins are via submission, 9 via knockout. So he does get finishes, 28 of 28 via finish, and 6 of his 15 wins are via submission. And Daniel, the reason he's only 2-1 since 2020, has only fought once in 2023 and once in 2022. Now, I just think Nathaniel's striking ability in this fight, especially the powerful kicks that he has, which he somewhat took away in his fight against Muhammad Naimov in the loss, maybe because of grappling that Naimov possesses. So he definitely needs to bring this back in this fight. But Daniel is always down to trade strikes. He may have the better hands, so he's going to make up for a fun scrap for fight fans, as they'll probably have a lot of fun striking exchanges. I do think Nathaniel is going to be super hungry coming off a loss. He still has championship aspirations, while Daniel at this point in his career, obviously in need of a win, but I'm not sure if he really has the dog in him, so to speak, the drive and determination to do what he needs to do against these young fighters at this point in his career. And really, I'm unsure of how his body's holding up. He has a ton of miles on him. He's got over 43 professional fights. I think the Nathaniel Wood is just going to wear on him over 15 minutes, maybe find a way for a submission victory. For that reason, I'm taking the prospect. We putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on to the main card. We have Arnold Almighty Allen, 30 years old with a 19-3 record and the number 6 next to his name, taking on Giga Ninja Chikadze, 35 years old with a 15-3 record and the number 10 next to his name. Now this is an absolute banger. Welcome to pay-per-view. Arnold Allen looked like a world beater in the UFC until he ran into Max Holloway. That's granted. And then in his next fight, he had to deal with the grappling heavy Movsar Evloev. And Giga has shown that he possesses serious power. He's well-rounded as a fighter, but I just think he has he's not at the level of Arnold with his striking, and he may have to resort to grappling in this fight. And I saw in today's embedded, Chikadze's coach was talking about how he's improved his grappling. Breaking it down, Arnold has a brown belt in BJJ. He's a Cage Warriors alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak and is 2-2 since 2022. 7 of his 19 wins are via knockout. Now, Giga has a kickboxing style. He trains out of King's MMA. He has a 3rd-degree black belt in Goju Ryu Karate. 4 of his last 5 fights have been fight of the night or performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He's a World Series of Fighting and Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is only 1-1 since 2022. 9 of his 15 wins are via knockout, and he does have a 4-inch reach advantage. Now, Calvin Kattar was able to defeat Giga with strictly his boxing abilities and technique. And in his fight against Alex Caceres, it was damn close. Alex could have easily won that fight in a striking-only affair. Now, I believe Arnold is going to have the boxing and the speed advantage, and I think he's a level up from the guys that he's fought recently. But we do know Giga has power. He has some really good kicks, good head kicks. He's going to have to tap into that early and often to keep Arnold at range, let him feel his power. But I do expect that Giga is going to have to get some takedowns and wear on Arnold and slow him down here, or it's going to be a brilliant finish by the Arnold, by the almighty Allen. For that reason, I'm taking Arnold Allen. We putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Muhammad the Punisher Makayev. 23 years old with an undefeated 12-0 record and the number 6 next to his name, taking on Manel Starboy Kopp. 30 years old with a 19-6 record and the number 8 next to his name. Now in this fight, it really is a clash of styles showdown. We get the young stud, 23-year-old Makayev, who is a grappling machine, and Manel, who is in his prime, has insane striking and power for a flyweight. The mix of power and speed and willingness to exchange is a problem for anyone in the division. But this is a big step up for Muhammad and the biggest test of his young UFC career. Breaking it down, Muhammad has a freestyle wrestling and submission grappling style. He has a purple belt in BJJ. He has the highest control time percentage in UFC flyweight division history at 59.4%. He also has the fewest strikes absorbed per minute in UFC flyweight division history at 1.36. He's a Brave alum. He's undefeated on a 12-fight winning streak, 6-0 in the UFC, and 6 of his 12 wins are via submission. Now, Manel trains out of AKA Thailand. He is a risen alum and former champion. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and 11 of his 19 wins are via knockout. Now, I do believe Manel is going to have the striking advantage in this fight, and Muhammad knows this, so I do think he will go for broke, attempting takedowns, looking to control and submit Manel. If Makayev does get the takedowns, I could see a path to an easy submission victory, especially as he tires Manel out, who typically has weight-cutting issues. But Manel is going to be preparing for whatever he can do to avoid the wrestling, uppercuts, knees up the middle, probably working on that takedown defense at all cost. I just think it's going to be too much to ask. I don't think Manel's takedown defense is great. There is no chance where he catches him, but I'm saying Muhammad Makayev stays undefeated, but I'm avoiding this fight on parlays where possible. Then we have the newly enshrined King Green, not Bobby Green. We got King Green, 37 years old, with a 32-15-1 record and the number 15 next to his name, taking on Paddy the Batty Pimblett, 29 years old with a 21-3 record. So now we get a striking test for Paddy. You could say he had a striking test against Tony Ferguson, but that would really only classify if you have the Tony Ferguson from like 5+ years ago. But Paddy's still undefeated in the UFC. In the photos and videos coming into the week, it seems like he's in the best shape of his career. This is the final fight in his UFC contract, which is interesting as well. But King, and aka Bobby, looked good in his fight against Jim Miller in April at UFC 300. And I'm sure that he will give Paddy all he could handle with his unorthodox striking and quick hands. Breaking this one down, King has a purple belt in BJJ. 2 of his last 4 fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He has the most significant strikes in UFC lightweight division history with 1,845. He has the most total strikes landed in UFC lightweight division history with 2,072. He's a King of the Cage alum and former champion with 1 successful title defense, and he's a Strikeforce alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak. He's 4-3-1 since 2022. 11 of his 32 wins are via knockout, 9 via submission. So 20 of his 32 wins come via finish. And 5 of his 15 losses are via knockout. Now, Paddy has a 2nd-degree black belt in BJJ. 3 of his 5 UFC fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He was the 2022 Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. He's a Cage Warriors alum and former champion with 1 successful title defense. He's on a 7-fight winning streak, 5-0 in the UFC, and 9 of his 21 wins are via submission. The one thing I do like about Paddy, I'm usually not a big fan, is his walkout Heads Will Roll remix is amazing and gets the fans absolutely hyped. This is going to be like 3, 4 in the morning. I don't know what time, but it's going to be late in the night for them. But I'm not sure how long Patty's going to want to stand and strike with King, as he didn't do the best versus guys like Jared Gordon, and King's striking is levels above that. Now, I do expect Patty to try and bring the fight to the octagon, but Bobby does have good grappling. You know, he has some wrestling background, so it's going to be interesting to see how successful he is with that. I don't think Patty's going to be able to just maul King and get into his positions if he does get him down. There obviously is a difference in age here, as King is 37, Patty only 29, just entering his prime. But I'm going to go with King Green, who is actually the Vegas betting favorite. I am avoiding this fight on all parlays where possible, though. It should be fun. Good test for Patty the Batty. But then we move in to the 2 title bouts with the interim heavyweight championship on the line. We have Tom Aspinall, 31 years old with a 14-3 record and the number 1 next to his name, taking on Curtis Razor Blades, 33 years old with an 18-4 record and the number 4 next to his name. Now, the first fight, not much went down before Tom stepped back and tore his knee out. I really do think Tom is going to have the striking advantage and may even have the grappling advantage, but I do expect Curtis to test that. Tom hasn't been out of the second round in his pro career, so it's going to be really interesting if the fight goes into the 3rd through 5th rounds, and I'm excited to see what happens. Now, Tom trains out of Aspinall BJJ. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's obviously the interim heavyweight champion. 6 of his 8 UFC fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up and absolutely showing out. He has the shortest average fight time in UFC history with 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And he has the largest striking differential in UFC history at 4.95. And he has the least bottom position in UFC history with 0.01 second. The lowest bottom position percentage in UFC history at 0.1. And he was the 2023 Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. He's a Cage Warriors alum. And he is technically on a 10-fight winning streak, 7-0 in the UFC. He did have the loss to Curtis via injury TKO. 11 of his 14 wins are via knockout, 3 via submission. So all 14 of his victories have come via finish. He is an absolutely finishing machine. Now, Curtis trains out of Elevation Fight Team. He has a purple belt in BJJ, a JUCO wrestling background out of Harper College, where he won the 2012 JUCO Wrestling Championships. 2 of his last 4 fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He has the most takedowns landed in UFC heavyweight division history with 62. He has the most control time in UFC heavyweight division history with 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 6 seconds. He has the most takedowns in a fight in UFC heavyweight division history. He had 14 against Alexander Volkov. He's an RFA alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is 3-1 since 2022. 13 of his 18 wins are via knockout, and all 4 losses are via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, when Curtis had faced the hard hitters, Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, his chin has just not been able to hold up. Those big power shots are there, and there are going to be a lot of them coming in this fight. And he may be taking on an even equal level grappler in Tom Aspinall. I really do expect Tom to have the speed advantage and the IQ advantage. So Curtis is going to have a flawless game plan with Team Elevation or get deep in the fight and test Tom's cardio. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I think I was more confident the first time they had fought that Tom would win. Curtis has definitely improved his game. He's only 33 years old as well. He's had to overcome some adversity, and I think that's going to help him. But I think Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight on the planet outside of John Jones. For that reason, I'm taking Tommy Aspinall. Tommy Aspinall. We putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. And also in the card preview, I forgot to talk, the UK fans are absolutely bonkers. Expect the energy. I hope the time doesn't affect that. This one should be one hell of a fan affair. Which sets us up for the main event. Come on, Rock. Throw something for you, Rock. Don't be a coward, Rock. Get it done. We got Leon Rocky Edwards, 32 years old with a 22-3 record, taking on Belal. Remember the name, Muhammad. 36 years old with a 23-3 record and the number 2 next to his name. Now, the first fight between these two lasted almost 2 full rounds, and Leon was having his way. He was picking Belal apart from range and looked like he was on a way to a finish. Now, Belal has really improved his game since 2021. I think his striking especially has really shown out. He proved that against good strikers in Vicente Luque and Sean Brady. His kicks are an absolute force to be reckoned with, and he has spent time training in Dagestan with Islam and Khabib, and he said that even Khabib has helped him with the game plan and has improved and has helped him improve for this fight. And I will say I was a lot more confident in Leon Edwards' victory the first time they had fought. This one is a lot more close. Now, Leon is a southpaw fighter. He trains out of Team Renegade, BJJ, and MMA. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's the first Jamaican-born champion in UFC history. He had the 2022 knockout of the year against Kamaru Usman, one of the more iconic moments in UFC history, if you ask me. That was what I was referring to with the chat about, come on, Rock, don't feel sorry for you, Rock. You need to frickin' do it. All the hard work you put in. That was also the 2022 upset of the year against Kamaru Usman, and he sports the latest knockout and finish in UFC welterweight division history with 1 second remaining against Peter Sabata. He likes those late finishes, apparently. He was the 2023 International Fighter of the Year. He's on a 12-fight winning streak. 7 of his 22 wins are via knockout, and he has a 3-inch leg reach advantage. And just to keep of note, I was thinking about this while I was chatting. Leon hasn't fought since December of 2023. He fought in March of 23 and then once in 2022, both Kamaru. So he hasn't been extremely active for a champion. But Belal trains out of Rofu Sport. He has a purple belt in BJJ. He's tied with George St. Pierre, Kamaru Usman, and Neil Magny for the most unanimous decision wins in UFC welterweight division history, with 10 of them things. I don't know how excited you would be to have that record or be tied for it. He's a Bellator and Titan FC alum. He's a former Titan FC champion. And he's on a 9-fight winning streak. Now, Belal's a problem. He is very well-rounded, but Leon really is. It's like if I want to build a fighter, he is that prototypical fighter for the welterweight division. His speed, his striking, that is going to be the big difference in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we see grappling from Belal earlier this time around, as he didn't get a takedown in the first fight. And I think he might come out with quite a bit of a different game plan than the first fight. Kamaru wasn't able to take Leon down, though, so I don't know how Belal is going to be able to do this and do it multiple times and keep Leon down. That's going to be the key for him, but I think Leon pieces him up over the course of 25 minutes. Maybe Belal wins a round or two, but I'm saying, and the crowd is going to be wild after the hometown UK fighters do work. I'm putting Leon on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. So let's look at it. Break this down. Let's see how the English fighters will perform. So I got Leon 1-0, Tom Aspinall 2-0. I got Paddy Pimblett losing, so 2-1. I got CLD losing 2-2. I got Arnold Allen winning 3-2. I got Nathaniel Wood winning 4-2. I have Molly McCann winning 5-2. I don't have Jake Hadley winning, so 5-3. I have Muhammad Makhachev winning, that's 6-3. I have Sam Patterson winning, that's 7-3. I have Mick Parkin winning, and that's 8-3. So I think the UK and English fighters will be 8-3 on the evening in the main card. I guess CLD's in the main card now. So I have them 3-2, but I think the fans are going to be absolutely bonkers, and I can't wait for Saturday night. But that sets us up for next weekend. We got a solid UFC Fight Night card going down in Abu Dhabi. This one is headlined by Corey Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. And this will be an early start on ABC, a nice little early morning into early afternoon bout. Get your Irish coffees, get your frappes, whatever you need. And then Nick Diaz, just so you know, the fight is postponed against Vicente Luque due to travel issues. So we will have to wait on the return of Nick Diaz. But hey, the Apex showdown, we had violence. We got the massive 304 card going down really late night, early morning in the UK. I'm super excited about it. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.